The forest whispered secrets as Arya Blackwood crossed the invisible boundary that had once marked the edge of her world. 5 years of exile had changed her, hardened the soft edges of her face, sharpened her senses, and taught her to survive in ways the pack could never understand. The familiar scent of pine and earth filled her lungs, bringing with it memories she'd tried desperately to bury. She paused, her hand resting against the rough bark of an ancient oak. This tree had been her childhood refuge, its branches offering sanctuary when the weight of being different became too much to bear. Now, it stood as a silent sentinel, marking her return to Silvercrest territory. "I never thought I'd come back," she whispered, more to herself than to the forest. The wind picked up, carrying with it the scent of wolf, former pack. Arya's muscles tensed instinctively. The last time she'd encountered pack members, they'd held her down while Alpha Magnus pressed the burning brand into her shoulder, marking her as outcast, traitor, unwanted. The scar tingled now, as if remembering 5 pointed stars, arranged in a circle, the mark of the betrayer. She'd worn long sleeves for years, afterward, ashamed of what it represented. Now, she wore sleeveless shirts deliberately, the scar a reminder of everything she'd survived. Arya continued deeper into the territory, moving with the silent grace that had kept her alive in the wilderness. The summons that had brought her back weighed heavily in her pakuda, small scroll delivered by a raven 3 days ago. The elegant script could only belong to one person, Elder Thea, the pack's healer and the only one who had shown Arya kindness on the day of her exile. "Come back, the pack needs you. Life hangs in the balance. Nothing more, nothing less." Just 7 words that had appended Arya's carefully constructed new life. She should have burned the message, should have stayed away. Yet, here she was, walking straight back into the jaws of those who had cast her out. The trees thinned as she approached the packlands. In the distance, she could make out the cluster of cabins that formed the heart of Silvercrest territory. Smoke rose from chimneys, and the sounds of daily life, children laughing, wood being chopped, voices calling to one another, drifted toward her. For a moment, the normalcy of it all made her chest ache with a longing she thought she'd extinguished years ago. A twig snapped behind her. Arya whirled, dropping into a defensive crouch, a knife appearing in her hand, as if conjured from thin air. "Still jumpy, I see," came a familiar voice. Liam stepped from the shadows, his amber eyes regarding her with a mixture of wariness and something else, relief. He'd grown taller in the years since she'd seen him last, his boyish features maturing into those of a man. The silver streaks in his dark hair marked him as a member of the Alpha's elite guard. "And you still can't approach someone without announcing yourself," Arya replied, straightening, but keeping the knife visible. "Old habits." A ghost of a smile touched his lips. "Some things never change. Many things do." She gestured to the silver in his hair. "Congratulations on making the guard. Your father must be proud." Pain flashed across Liam's face. "My father died 2 winters ago." The news hit Arya harder than expected. Gareth had been kind to her once, teaching her to track when her own father couldn't be bothered. "I'm sorry. I didn't know. How could you?" There was no accusation in his tone, just simple acknowledgement of the reality of exile. News didn't reach those who were cut off from the pack. An awkward silence stretched between them. 5 years of unspoken words creating a chasm wider than the physical distance that had separated them. "Elder Thea sent for me," Arya finally said, tucking the knife back into its hidden sheath. "Is she?" "She's alive," Liam assured her quickly. "But things are ... complicated. The pack is in trouble." "Arya, the kind of trouble that makes your exile seem like a minor disagreement." "Nothing about my exile was minor," she said, the words sharper than intended. Liam had the grace to look ashamed. "I know. I just meant, I know what you meant." Arya sighed, running a hand through her copper hair, now streaked with premature silver, not from rank like Liam's, but from the magic that had awakened in her during her years alone. "Just take me to Thea." He nodded, turning toward the village. "Follow me." "And Arya?" He glanced back, his expression grave. "Prepare yourself. Much has changed since you left." The walk to the village was tense, the weight of unsaid words hanging between them. Arya felt eyes on her as they passed the first cabins, curious, hostile, fearful. Children were hurried inside. Doors closed firmly as she passed. The brand on her shoulder seemed to burn anew under their scrutiny. "They act as if I carry plague," she muttered. "You're the first outcast to return in living memory," Liam replied quietly, "and given what's happening, people are on edge." "What exactly is happening?" Arya asked, but Liam merely shook his head. "Thea will explain." They approached the largest cabin at the center of the village, the Alpha's home. Arya stopped short, her heart hammering against her ribs. Thea lives with Magnus now. The thought of facing the Alpha so soon after her return made her stomach clench. "No," Liam said, his voice dropping. "Thea moved here to care for them." Before Arya could ask who them referred to, the door opened. Elder Thea stood in the doorway, her once black hair now completely white, her face more lined than Arya remembered. But her eyes, those piercing blue eyes that seemed to see straight through to one's soul, remained unchanged. "You came," Thea said simply, as if Arya had merely been away on a short journey rather than cast out in shame. "Your message was compelling," Arya replied, suddenly feeling like the awkward 16-year-old she'd been when last in Thea's presence. The elder's gaze traveled over her, noting the changes, lingering on the visible scar. "You've grown into your power." It wasn't a question, but Arya nodded anyway. "I had no choice. We rarely do." Thea stepped aside, gesturing for Arya to enter. "Come. There's much to discuss, and time grows short." Arya hesitated at the threshold. "Magnus is aware of your return," Thea assured her. "He won't harm you under my protection." The words should have been comforting, but they only served to remind Arya of her vulnerability here. Still, she'd come this far. With a deep breath, she stepped into the Alpha's home. The interior was warm and well-appointed, as befitted the pack leader's dwelling. A fire crackled in the hearth, casting dancing shadows on the walls. The scent of herbs and medicine hung heavy in the air, mingling with something else, the unmistakable smell of illness. Thea led her through the main room, toward a hallway at the back. "Liam, stand guard. No one enters without my permission." Liam nodded, taking up position by the door as Thea guided Arya deeper into the house. They stopped outside a closed door, from behind which came the sound of labored breathing. "Before we go in," Thea said, her voice barely above a whisper, "you should know that Magnus is not the same man who exiled you. Grief and fear have changed him." "Grief," Arya echoed. Thea's eyes filled with sorrow. "His mate, Lyra, died 3 months ago, and now their daughter hovers at death's door with the same affliction." The news stunned Arya. Lyra had been among those who had testified against her at the trial. Her beautiful face twisted with disgust as she'd recounted Arya's supposed crimes. Yet Arya wouldn't wish death on anyone, especially not by illness. Wolves were supposed to be resistant to most human diseases. "What kind of sickness could kill a wolf?" she asked. "That," Thea said grimly, "is what we need to discover, and quickly, before we lose the child as well." She pushed open the door. "This is why I called you back, Arya. You're our last hope." The room beyond was dimly lit, heavy curtains drawn against the daylight. A small bed occupied the center, and in it lay a child no more than 4 years old. Her dark hair was plastered to her forehead with sweat, her small chest rising and falling with obvious effort. Beside the bed, a figure sat slumped in a chair. Magnus, though Arya barely recognized him. The one-sprout Alpha looked broken. His powerful frame had thinned. Dark circles shadowed his eyes, and his hair, once as black as midnight, was streaked with gray. He looked up as they entered, his expression shifting from exhaustion to shock to cold fury in the span of heartbeats. "What is she doing here?" he demanded, rising to his feet with a growl building in his throat. "I summoned her," Thea said firmly, stepping between them. And you agreed to any measure that might save Luna. I didn't agree to this, Magnus snarled, his eyes flashing gold as his wolf rose to the surface. Not her, not the traitor. Who was innocent? Thea cut in, her voice sharp enough to make even the alpha pause. As I told you then, and as I maintain now, Arya was 16 and gifted with magic the pack feared. She became a convenient scapegoat for problems that had nothing to do with her. Arya stared at the elder in shock. Thea had defended her. She'd never known, had assumed that everyone, even the kind healer, had believed the lies. Magnus's jaw clenched, but his eyes darted to his daughter's still form, conflict evident in his expression. What can she do that you cannot? He finally asked, the fight draining from him. Arya's gift is different from mine, Thea explained. Where I heal physical wounds, her magic touches the spirit. If Luna's illness is what I suspect a curse, rather than natural disease, then Arya may be our only chance. A curse. Arya and Magnus spoke in unison, then glanced at each other in surprise. Asterisk. Thea nodded gravely. Flyra's symptoms were identical: the fever that wouldn't break, the weakness that seemed to consume her from within, the strange marks that appeared on her skin. She gestured to Luna, gently turning the child's arm to reveal a pattern of dark veins spreading like spiderwebs beneath her pale skin. I've seen this before, Arya whispered, recognition dawning. During her exile, she'd encountered other outcasts, other magical beings. One, an ancient witch who'd taken Arya in during her first difficult winter alone, had shown her tomes filled with dark magic and its effects. It's a blood curse, fold magic, forbidden magic. Can you break it? Magnus asked, desperation replacing anger in his voice. Arya approached the bed slowly, her hand hovering over Luna's forehead without touching. She closed her eyes, reaching out with her senses, feeling the malevolent energy that coiled around the child's life force like a parasitic vine. It's strong, she murmured, and complex. Breaking it will require more than just my power. She opened her eyes, meeting Magnus's gaze directly for the first time. I'll need ingredients, specific ones, and time. How much time? His voice cracked. The healer from the northern pack gave her 3 days at most. Arya's heart sank. 3 days to break a curse. This powerful was next to impossible. But looking at the small, innocent face of the child, who had done nothing to deserve such suffering, she knew she had to try. I'll work as quickly as I can, she promised, but I make no guarantees. Magnus held her gaze for a long moment, then nodded once. Tell me what you need. As Arya listed the rare herbs and materials required for the counterspell, she couldn't help but marvel at the strange turn of events. 5 years ago, this man had branded her a traitor and cast her out to die. Now, he looked at her with desperate hope, willing to place his daughter's life in her hands. There's one more thing, she said when she'd finished. The curse is tied to blood. Whoever cast it used something of Lyrazand, now Luna's blood, to bind it. If we can find that object, breaking the curse becomes much easier. How would we identify it? Thea asked. It would feel wrong, Arya explained, cold to the touch, even in warmth. And it would be something personal, something that wouldn't raise suspicion if it went missing. Magnus's expression darkened. You're saying someone close to us did this? Someone in the pack, or someone with access to your personal items, Arya confirmed. This wasn't random, Magnus. Someone targeted your family specifically. The Alpha's hands clenched into fists, his knuckles white with rage. When I find who did this, focus on saving Luna first, Thea interrupted gently. Vengeance can wait. Arya moved to the window, pulling back the heavy curtain to let in a shaft of sunlight. I'll need a space to work, somewhere private, where I won't be disturbed. Use my study, Magnus offered, surprising her. No one enters without my permission. As they discussed arrangements, a small sound from the bed drew their attention. Luna's eyes had opened deep, amber like her father's, glazed with fever but alert. Papa, she whispered, her voice thin and reedy. "Who's the lady with the star?" Arya realized the child was looking at her oar, more specifically, at her scarred shoulder, where the brand was visible beneath her sleeveless top. Magnus moved to his daughter's side, smoothing back her damp hair. "She's a healer, little moon. Come to help you feel better." Luna's gaze remained fixed on Arya. "She glows," the child murmured, a small smile touching her pale lips before her eyes fluttered closed again. Arya and Thea exchanged significant looks. Children, especially wolf children, often saw things adults could not: the true nature of magic, the auras that surrounded those with power. "She sees your essence," Thea said quietly. "The good sign. Her spirit remains strong, even as her body weakens." As they left Luna to rest, Arya found herself walking beside Magnus in uncomfortable silence. 5 years of bitterness and pain couldn't be erased in a single afternoon, no matter how dire the circumstances. "Why did you come back?" he finally asked as they reached his study. "After what I did to you." Arya considered the question, looking around at the packlands that had once been her home, thinking of the child fighting for her life, because no one deserves to suffer for another's hatred. She said simply, "Not even the daughter of the man who cast me out." Magnus flinched as if struck. "I was wrong," he said, the words clearly difficult for him. "About many things, but especially about you." Before Arya could respond, a commotion erupted outside. Liam burst through the front door, his expression urgent. "Scouts report movement at the northern border. A large group, moving fast." Magnus straightened, instantly alert. "Rogues." "No," Liam said grimly. "It's the Eastern Pack. They've crossed the boundary line, and they're armed for war." Arya felt a chill run down her spine. The Eastern Pack had been enemies of Silvercrest for generations, but open warfare had been avoided for decades, through careful treaties and boundary agreements. For them to violate territory now, when Silvercrest was weakened by the mysterious illness, "This is no coincidence," she said, the pieces suddenly falling into place. The curse, the invasion, they're connected. Magnus's eyes met hers, understanding dawning. "They waited until we were vulnerable, and made us vulnerable first," Arya added. "Whoever cast this curse is working with the Eastern Pack." As the implications sank in, Arya realized that her return had become about much more than saving one child. The entire pack, the people who had rejected her, branded her, cast her out, now faced extinction. And somehow, against all odds and her better judgment, she found herself standing with them against the coming storm. The Alpha study had been transformed into a makeshift ritual space in less than an hour. Furniture pushed against walls, shelves cleared of books to make room for Arya's supplies, and symbols drawn in chalk across the wooden floor. Outside, the sounds of the pack preparing for battle created a tense backdrop to Arya's work. "The Eastern Pack will reach our borders by nightfall," Liam reported, standing in the doorway with tension evident in every line of his body. "Magnus has called everyone capable of fighting to assemble at the northern ridge." Arya nodded without looking up from the mortar and pestle where she ground rare herbs into a fine powder. "How many fighters can he muster?" 37, Liam answered grimly. "Maybe 40, if we include the older juveniles. And the Eastern Pack, at least 60. According to our scouts, all experienced warriors." The numbers sent a chill down Arya's spine. Silvercrest was outnumbered and weakened by the mysterious illness that had already claimed several lives beyond Lyra's. It wasn't just Luna who was sick. Other pack members had shown early symptoms, though none as advanced as the Alpha's daughter. "This isn't a coincidence," Arya murmured, setting aside the mortar to examine an ancient text Thea had provided. "The timing is too perfect." Liam stepped fully into the room, lowering his voice. "Magnus thinks the same. He believes someone betrayed us, gave the Eastern Pack information about our weakened state." "It's more than that," Arya replied, tracing a finger over a faded illustration in the book. "The curse and the attack are connected. Whoever cast this spell knew exactly what they were doing, weakening the pack from within before striking from without. A coordinated attack," Liam concluded, his expression darkening. But who would have both the magical knowledge to cast such a curse and connections to the Eastern Pack? Arya looked up, meeting his gaze. Someone with a powerful grudge against someone who wants more than just territory. They want destruction. The unspoken question hung between them. Was Arya herself a suspect? She had every reason to hate the pack that had branded and exiled her. Yet here she was, working to save them. As if reading her thoughts, Liam shook his head. Magnus doesn't suspect you. Not anymore. If you'd wanted revenge, you wouldn't have come back to help. Some might say I'm playing a long game, Arya replied with a bitter smile. Gaining trust before striking. Are you? The directness of his question surprised her. No, she said simply. My quarrel was with those who falsely accused me, not with innocent children or pack members who had no say in my exile. Liam seemed satisfied with her answer. What do you need to break the curse? Most of the ingredients Thea has already provided, Arya said, gesturing to the collection of herbs. Crystals and vials arranged on the desk, but the most important element is still missing: the object used to bind the curse. Without it, I can treat the symptoms but not break the spell completely. How do we find it? Arya closed the book, determination hardening her features. We search everything connected to Lyra and Luna. Clothing, jewelry, toys, anything personal that might have been tampered with. I'll help, Liam offered, but I should warn. You Magnus has the pack on high alert. Anyone acting suspicious will be questioned immediately. Including me? Arya asked, arching an eyebrow. Especially you, he admitted. Old prejudices die hard, Arya. Not everyone believes you've returned out of the goodness of your heart. Before she could respond, a commotion erupted outside. Shouts and the sound of running feet drew them both to the window. In the central clearing, pack members were gathering, their expressions a mixture of fear and confusion. At the center stood Magnus, his face grim as he addressed the crowd. We need to see what's happening, Liam said, already moving toward the door. Asterisk, 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 asterisk. Arya hesitated, glancing at her half-completed preparations. Time was running out for Luna, but something told her that whatever was occurring outside might be equally important. With a frustrated sigh, she followed Liam. The afternoon sun cast long shadows across the clearing as they joined the gathering. Magnus stood on the steps of the meeting hall, his second-in-command, Darius, at his side. The Alpha's voice carried clearly through the crisp autumn air. Confirmed by our scouts. The Eastern Pack has crossed our borders with a force of over 60 fighters. They will reach the northern ridge by nightfall. Murmurs of fear rippled through the crowd. Silvercrest hadn't faced open warfare in generations. Many of the younger wolves had never even trained for battle. We will meet them at the ridge, Magnus continued, his voice steady despite the gravity of the situation. Every able-bodied adult will join the defense. Those with young children or who are needed for medical care will remain here under protection. A woman near the front stepped forward. Elena, Arya recognized, who had once been her childhood friend, before testifying against her at the exile hearing. What about the sick? We can't leave them defenseless. Elder Thea will remain with them, Magnus answered, along with a small guard and her. Another voice called out, and suddenly all eyes turned to Arya, standing at the edge of the gathering. The speaker, an older wolf named Garrett, pointed an accusing finger. Are we really trusting the Outcast with our safety while we're away fighting? Tension crackled through the air. Arya felt the weight of dozens of stares. Some curious, others openly hostile. She kept her expression neutral, though her heart pounded against her ribs. Magnus's gaze found hers across the crowd, and something unspoken passed between them. Not trust, exactly, but a fragile alliance born of necessity. Arya Blackwood is here at my invitation, the Alpha stated firmly. She is working to break the curse that has afflicted our pack. Anyone who interferes with her work answers directly to me. The declaration stunned the gathering into silence. 5 years ago, This same man had condemned her before the entire pack. Now he was publicly acknowledging her presence and purpose. Garrett wasn't satisfied. How convenient that she returns just as we're attacked. How do we know she isn't working with the Eastern Pack? That this isn't part of her revenge? Before Magnus could respond, another voice cut through the tension, clear and commanding despite her age. If Arya wanted revenge, she could have simply let Luna die, the elder said, stepping forward to stand beside Arya. Instead, she's working to save the Alpha's daughter, while the rest of you point fingers and waste precious time. The rebuke silenced further objections, though Arya could still feel the distrust emanating from many in the crowd. It didn't matter. She hadn't come back for their approval or forgiveness. Magnus continued, outlining the defense strategy, assigning positions and responsibilities. Arya listened with half an ear, her mind already returning to the curse and its mysterious origin. Something about the timing nagged at Hertha, Eastern Pack, choosing this precise moment to attack, when Silvercrest was at its most vulnerable. As the meeting dispersed, wolves hurrying to prepare for battle, Arya found herself approached by an unexpected figure, Darius, Magnus's second-in-command, and one of those who had been most vocal in calling for her exile years ago. "Blackwood," he greeted her, his tone carefully neutral. A word. Liam tensed beside her, but Arya nodded, following Darius a short distance away from the dispersing crowd. "I won't pretend to be happy about your return," Darius said, without preamble, his gray eyes cold. "But if you can save Luna, I'm willing to set aside old grievances." "How magnanimous of you," Arya replied dryly, "considering those old grievances involved falsely accusing me of dark magic and having me branded as a traitor." Darius's jaw tightened. "We all believed what we saw." "You saw what you wanted to see," Arya countered. "A convenient scapegoat for problems you didn't understand." "That's not—" He stopped, visibly reining in his temper. "I didn't come to argue about the past. I came to give you this." He held out a small object, a silver locket, on a delicate chain. Arya recognized it immediately as Lyra's, the Alpha's mate, who had died from the same curse, now afflicting Luna. "Where did you get this?" she asked, not reaching for it. "It was among Lyra's possessions," Darius explained. "Magnus asked me to bring it to you. He thought it might help with breaking the curse." Arya extended her senses toward the locket, careful not to touch it directly. A cold sensation washed over her, like stepping into a shadow on a winter day, the unmistakable signature of dark magic. "This is it," she breathed, excitement and dread mingling in her chest. "This is the binding object." Darius frowned. "You're certain?" "Yes." Arya carefully took the locket, using a silk handkerchief to avoid direct contact. "The curse is tied to this, but I need to know who gave this to Lyra. When did she receive it?" A strange expression crossed Darius's face. Hesitation, perhaps, or something deeper. "It was a gift for her birthday 3 months ago." "From whom?" "From me," he admitted, not meeting her eyes. "But I didn't. Would never." "Where did you get it?" Arya pressed, suspicion blooming. "From a traveling merchant who passed through last spring," he said. "It was crafted in the Southern Territories, made of pure silver, blessed by their moons." Darius ran a hand through his hair, distress evident in his posture. "I had no idea it was cursed." "You have to believe me." "Did she?" Arya studied him carefully. Darius had been one of her most vocal accusers 5 years ago, but his distress now seemed genuine. Still, coincidences were piling up too quickly for comfort. "I need to take this to my workroom," she said finally, with the binding object identified. "I might be able to trace the curse back to its caster." Darius nodded, relief visible in his expression. "Do what you need to do. I should join the others, preparing for battle." As he turned to leave, Arya called after him. "Darius, be careful tonight. I don't think this attack is what it appears to be." He paused, looking back with a frown. "What do you mean?" "Just a feeling," she replied, unwilling to voice her suspicions without proof. "Watch your back." Returning to the Alpha study with the locket carefully wrapped, Arya found Thea waiting for her, the elder's expression grave. "You found it," Thea said, eyeing the bundle in Arya's hand. Lyra's locket. A gift from Darius. Apparently, Thea's eyebrows rose. Darius gave her a gift. That's unexpected. Why? Arya asked, setting the wrapped locket on the desk and beginning to arrange the other components for the counterspell. Darius and Magnus have been friends since childhood, but Darius and Lyra never got along. There was bad blood between them, especially after she became Magnus's mate. This new information added another layer to the already complex situation. Did Darius want Lyra for himself? No, Thea said, thoughtfully. It was something else. Political disagreements. Mostly, Darius thought Lyra had too much influence over Magnus's decisions regarding pack alliances. Alliances like the one with the Eastern Pack. Arya asked sharply. Thea's eyes widened as understanding dawned. Lyra was the strongest advocate for maintaining peace with the Eastern Pack. She had family connections. There her mother was Eastern before joining Silvercrest. The pieces were beginning to align in a disturbing pattern. And after Lyra died, Magnus withdrew from the peace talks. Thea confirmed. He blamed the Eastern Pack for not sharing information about a rogue wolf who had attacked one of our hunting parties last winter. Arya's mind raced. If Darius had wanted to push Silvercrest toward conflict with the Eastern Pack, removing Lyra would have been a crucial step. But cursing a child his alpha's daughter seemed beyond even the most ambitious power play. I need to break this curse before I can prove anything, Arya decided, turning her attention to the ritual preparations. Luna's life comes first. Thea nodded in agreement. What do you need from me? Stay with Luna. The counterspell will be painful for her, as the curse fights to maintain its hold. She needs your healing skills to ease her through it. As Thea departed, Arya began the painstaking process of preparing the ritual. The locket would need to be cleansed, then used as a conduit to draw the curse out of Luna's body. It was dangerous. Magic not dark, but powerful enough that a misstep could be fatal for both Luna and Arya herself. Hours passed as she worked, the sounds of the pack preparing for battle, a constant reminder of the ticking clock. Twilight descended, casting the room in deepening shadows that Arya dispelled with carefully placed candles. The symbols on the floor began to glow faintly with power as she activated them one by one. A knock at the door broke her concentration. Liam entered, now dressed in battle gear leather armor, reinforced with metal plates at vital points. A short sword at his hip. It's time, he said simply. The Eastern Pack has been sighted at the ridge. Arya nodded, not pausing in her preparations. Be careful out there. Something about this attack feels wrong. Magnus thinks so too, Liam admitted. He set a trap of his own, a contingent of fighters hidden in the eastern forest to flank the attackers. Smart, Arya murmured, though. Her instincts screamed that they were all missing something crucial. Liam hesitated at the door. Arya, if we don't return, you'll return, she interrupted firmly. All of you. If I didn't come back, just to watch this pack fall to outside forces.